My name is Sylvia Massy. I'm a music producer. I've worked with Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Tulle, Johnny Cash, Smashing Pumpkins, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Prince. My father was a technician, a mechanical engineer, and he would build his own stereos at home. So he built his own tape deck. And my mother was an opera singer, so I had the best of both worlds. I had a technical father and a musical mother, so it seemed like a very natural thing to do to get into this business, music technology, because I was taught how to not fear doing things, maybe trying things and experimenting and directing people to try some things, So, yeah, I had the best of both worlds when I was growing up. When I was first starting out, I was interested in radio broadcasting. And I was an on-air personality in a disc jockey back when they actually had discs that they were spinning in the radio stations. And I loved it. The thing that I loved about it was the music. But it turns out that radio is more business than music, honestly. So I had the skills to use the equipment, and the natural thing for me to do would be to get into the music side. I started as an engineer, but I was just basically a technician. And I thought I was very good at that. But it was when I was working with a really fun band called Green Jello, which was kind of a comedy act, that I got to experiment and throw in sound effects into our music. And that was when I fell in love with that type of recording, the creativity of production. It's not just a technical job. You can really be creative with sound. Another inspiration was dub reggae music, because I didn't realize that reggae, when you combine that with studio magic, turns into dub, which was so much fun to listen to. So those two things really spurred me into falling in love with the music production. I started very creatively with sound effects at first, creating my own sound effects and then adding sound effects into music productions. And then I tried to bring some of that into every session, whether it was serious music or comedy music. I wanted to involve the musicians into something that was a bit outrageous and fun, that they would always remember. We would all remember forever. So when it was the opportunity to work with a band called Tulle, I thought a good idea might be to make a very loud and disgusting sound. What would this be? We didn't know what it would be, but I thought maybe dropping a piano from a crane. This would be a good sound to record. That would be an outrageous sound to put on a record. And I tried really hard to find a crane, but I couldn't find a crane. But I did find some old pianos that were junk because they were untunable, they were unrepairable. So I got them for cheap and brought them into the studio and bought a bunch of sledgehammers and gave one to each of the band members along with safety goggles. And we recorded them being smashed. It was exciting. And we created actually a musical piece out of that called Disgustipated on the Undertow record. So now that was the beginning of this type of outrageous recording. So I tried to bring some of that into every session, whether it's throwing a guitar off a cliff or recording in a cave or recording in a submarine, some kind of adventure that we all remember forever. And it isn't about getting something that is actually useful as much as it is imprinting the feeling into the music being recorded for that project. The song is actually the number one thing in production. If you don't have a good song, you can dress it up in all kinds of stuff, and it will still be a lousy song. I want to start there with production. I want to start by finding the right material and picking the place to record and the equipment to record with, but to capture those performances, I can enhance capturing the right performance by doing these kind of fun things so that everyone is involved and there's an excitement in the studio. I've had a great day here at Abbey Road Institute in Paris. Coming to a studio that I haven't worked at before, there's things that I have to get used to. But this place, I stepped into something that I'm very familiar with. The console is an SSL K-Series, 96 input. Well, I had something very similar in my studio for years, and it was an SSL 90 input J-Series, very similar. So it's a comfortable setting. It's a big control room. And instead of feeling like I had students, I felt like I had, a dozen assistants, because I gave every group of 2 or 3 people a job to do. So there were people setting up drum miking, there was people setting up the bass, and people setting up the guitar. Everyone had a job to do, so it was a group effort. It wasn't necessarily me lording over everyone and being a teacher. I thought that we all worked together to make a great recording. The band, a young band, but a good sound. And I heard the demo before we started, and they were on fire when we finally got our headphones just right and all the mics working and in the way that I wanted them to sound. It was simple. In fact, the third take, I think, was our master, and it was so good that we didn't even re-sing the vocals. Now, that's very unusual because I had them all recording in the same room. The singer was actually in the room with the drums with an SM57, which is a very common mic. Nothing outrageously expensive at all. It's about $100 to buy this mic, but it was the right mic, and she gave a terrific performance. We're keeping it, So we did some overdubs. So we tried some experiments, and some of the experiments worked and some didn't work. In fact, I think we lost an amplifier to experimentation today. Didn't cause a fire, though. No one got hurt, and so that's a good day. The drums we used, it's a very nice kit, but I noticed that there was a few things that I wanted to work on when it first came in. First of all, there was a front head. Typically, I like to have the microphone closer to the batter head, so I usually put one of the microphones inside the drum. There was no way to do that, so we took the head off of the front of the drum, and now it just was wide open. Now I could place the mic where I wanted to. We also used a NS10 speaker, which is wired up in reverse, and it becomes a great mic to capture low-end frequencies. And we put that right smack in front of the drum kit, and it worked great. The toms needed some tuning help, so we spent a little time with that and actually tuned the toms into the key of the song, and I think that it really helped the toms. We also cut some drum heads to make what I call dead ringers. All it is taking an old drum head and cutting a ring out of it and then placing it on the head of the drum that you're playing. That kind of dampens down some of the ringiness and some of the unwanted frequencies on the drum kit, on individual toms and on the snare. So the drum set, we also added some unusual mics into the picture. So we have a mic that has a built-in compressor called a periscope, which a friend of mine gave. He built it. It's a prototype for a microphone that he's going to manufacture. It's called the periscope. Anyway, we were lucky to have that on the session. We also used a Melodeon, which is a French mic and a vintage mic. A very interesting mic, and I would like to learn more about that. We used a telephone for the drum recording. In fact, we took a vintage telephone and modified it by wiring up the cradle that the mouthpiece sits in, rewiring it so that we could use it as a microphone. And that is a very unique sound. And we used that on the drums. We later used it on the vocals too. It's something that I do quite a bit in recording, but I like to take a regular garden hose and put a mic into one end and then drape that in front of the drum kit, and it filters out a lot of the high-end frequencies, which are kind of obnoxious in the drums sometimes when the drummer's going and you want to capture the sound of the room. You never know what you're going to get when you're at a new studio. Not too many studios have hoses. I have to go out and buy one and bring it in. When I listened to the band's demo, the first thing I thought is we could have some interesting vocal arrangements. Maybe the singer could do backing vocal groups that are imaging, that like mirroring the lyrics in the song as a backing part, as an answer, like a call and answer. So I thought we would sit together and maybe work out some parts. The easiest way and the quickest way I know of doing that is for me to just grab a mic right there in the control room at the console and start doing top line kind of melodies. Now, I don't speak French, so all I was doing was going da 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 da. Here's a melody in this place in the song. Okay, now you, singer, find some words that work with this. And we worked together, and it worked very quickly. We came up with some parts. There's some male vocals, female vocals for backing parts. I did put down some guides, and my guides are not in the final version though. Maybe there's just a little bit, but for the most part, it's not my show. This is their song. This is a really serious thing to talk about, how to get a foothold in the industry so that you can have a career that will be a long time career and that you will be very happy with. And I suggest starting by not getting pigeonholed into one style of music, that explore all kinds of genres of music and go places that you're not entirely comfortable to go. And you might find that you fall in love with some new type of music you were not even expecting. The more of a variety of musical styles you have in your discography, it is better for you to sell yourself, because ultimately you will have to market and sell yourself to clients. And you are your own entrepreneur. This is your own business that you're creating. Record as many things on your own as possible. And let's say over the time of a year that you record 20 different artists, all different artists. Don't record 20 songs with one artist. Record many different artists, and you'll find that each connection with each artist will lead to more things to do down the road, and they will remember you if you make a good impression. So go ahead and you have to also be not shy. There's no way you can get into this if you're shy. You have to speak your mind, but know when to speak. It's not always appropriate to interject your opinion into a conversation, but when it's your turn, jump on it and don't let go.